Now, I think everyone needs a quick fix soup, and this one is a super green soup that is jam-packed with frozen peas, a little bit of spinach, some broccoli, and lots of good stuff. And the whole point of this recipe is just to show you how easy it is to inject lots of greens into your diet and how simple this soup is to make.
Hi, I'm Donal, and welcome to the channel.
I've been creating easy meals that make your life a little bit easier in the kitchen for over 10 years now. But this channel is all about a little slice of our family life and home cooking. I'll be showing you how to get the most out of your kitchen to next level your dishes for maximum flavor. So stick around, hit that subscribe button, and let's get cooking.
The other ingredient we need is some mint and a little bit of spinach, and I'm using some baby spinach here. I tend to always buy one of these big boxes and they last me throughout the week. They're good for smoothies, but they're also good for kind of adding through soups and stews. You can stir them in and they almost kind of go to nothing. So they're a really easy way to get some nutrients into your diet. So we have the majority of our ingredients here. I'm just going to do a little bit of chopping on our spring onions. I'm not worrying too much about chopping them finely here. All I want to do is get them into shape so that we can soften them down in the pan. Now, I do like using spring onions here specifically because they cook really quickly. If you were using onions here, you would need to sweat them out for about like 6 to 8 minutes or even a little bit longer, just until you get nice flavor from them. But the instant hit of spring onion here is why I use it, because you're getting the freshness, that you're getting that onion bite, but it doesn't take so long to cook out. The spring onions chopped, we're gonna grab up a little bit of olive oil and stick it into the pan. And to the pan, we're getting straight in there with those spring onions. We want a bit of a sizzle. And that's what we got. Now, as soon as the onions go in, this is your opportunity to build the flavor. It's a very simple flavor throughout the soup, but seasoning is really important. So a tiny touch of some black pepper and a good sprinkle of some sea salt. I'm gonna turn down the heat to about a medium. And now that these are frying off nicely, let's talk about the other ingredients we need. So I have some broccoli. All I'm gonna do is cut off the florets, but really what you wanna do is just up as much greenage as you possibly can. So that's looking good. Next ingredient is our green peas. So slice them off. Straight into the pot now that the onions have softened. And now we're just gonna give it all a quick stir through. Okay, peas are in and frying. Now it's time to get in there with our liquid. I've got some veggie stock. If you have time to make your own, by all means go for it. But we're going straight in there with some shop bought. Now the trick here is not to pour too much of that stock in, because otherwise you're gonna get a really loose soup. If you come in and have a look here, you can see I've got just enough where I can still see some pea action, but the liquid is pretty much covering it. And the beauty of not adding too much now is that if you want to add more later and loosen out the soup, then you have the opportunity to do so. But if you put it all in now, you don't even get the chance. So we're going to bring that up to temperature. I'm going to add in a lot of spinach here, and we also have those mint leaves. So I just want to pick off a few sprigs of mint to go in here too. I remember trying a pea soup with mint in it for the first time, and it was that magic combination of just instant spring flavors. It feels super fresh. So if you've never tried a pea and mint soup before, it is absolutely glorious. So I really highly suggest you give it a go. We're gonna add the mint leaves in alongside the spinach, but we should be in business over here. I just wanna bring the stock up to a point where it's starting to come to a rolling boil. Right, soup is at a nice rolling boil at this point. So I'm gonna take up the broccoli and pop it straight in. And I only want to cook this out literally until that broccoli is just fork tender. The whole idea of this soup is to keep as much of that kind of fresh green in there as possible. Okay, the broccoli has had a little time to simmer and it's not completely cooked right now, and the way to check that is basically if you take a wooden spoon and press the fork into it, it still has a bit of bite in it. So this is the perfect time to add in our mint, number one, and also a fairly hefty handful of spinach. I would say 2 large handfuls, more than you think you'd need, and pop them straight into the pot. And then just using your wooden spoon, press that in. And you can see there's hardly any nasties in here. It's a really simple soup and you've got loads and loads of green action. And look, literally in like seconds, that spinach has wilted down. So I'm just gonna give it like a minute or two more and let's prep for serving this up. So I have a hand blender which we're gonna blitz up. If you have one of those like big fancy mixers, by all means go for it. But these little babies, these are probably the cheapest and easiest ways of getting really smooth soup. So let's get our bits together. We want maybe some more mint. We've got some creme fraiche. I've got some feta. The beauty is once you have this soup done and dusted, you can garnish it with whatever you fancy. You can add a little bit of croutons over the top. We're just gonna add some feta to finish it off, but this is pretty much where this soup needs to be. And now it just takes a little bit of time and patience to blitz this until it's a really smooth and bright green soup. Now, although these blenders are pretty good and they're very handy to use, they are not as strong and as powerful as if you had one of those like standalone blitzer mixers. So you do need to kind of give it a good blitz through. So take your time with this and make sure you get a really, really smooth soup. Just look at the color. I mean, that is where it's at. I always think you're eating well when you're eaten by the rainbow, and this is like neon green. It can only mean there are good things going on in here. Okay, this is pretty much exactly where it needs to be. And this is the point I was making earlier where, you know, if you add too much stock or too much liquid, it's very hard to come back from that. Whereas now I can see what consistency I'm dealing with and I can loosen it out as required. So this is pretty much good to go. So I'm gonna serve it up, just grab up a big ladleful and look at that. I mean, this is just luscious and green and gorgeous. So straight into the bowl. For me, like, especially if I have a cold or I'm not feeling the best, this is my like go-to. I know I'm getting all the nutrients I need for the day. So a little last bit of that. And this is where, like, if you have a very simple soup like this, it really is down to you to make it a little more interesting. So, oh, actually, do you know what I didn't do is taste it. And I would always suggest you taste it. I've now served it up, but stick with me. We're gonna grab a spoon. It's something I always go on about and it really is important. Yeah, it does need a tiny little pinch of black pepper, but I'm gonna add some to serve, and it could do with just a pinch of salt, but this is pretty much where it needs to be. A lovely opportunity to use some good quality extra virgin olive oil just as a drizzle over. It just sits quite beautifully over the top. We're gonna add a little sprinkle of that black pepper over the top, and a little pinch of salt. And my finishing touch, you could use a dollop of creme fraiche if you like, or you could add some feta, which adds this gorgeous, like, salty, spiky bite. So I'm gonna add some of that feta straight over the top. Really simple and really, really delicious. It's a real point of difference. Creme fraiche is gonna give you this sort of sour, creamy bite, whereas the feta gives you this salty, creamy bite. So it's up to you which one you use. I would just say a nice little hit of mint leaves over the top is gonna go to making it look even more pretty than it already is. And that is a gorgeous bowl of super green soup. It's literally taken me about 15 minutes to make. In fact, I'm gonna dive into it and just try a little bit of that feta in with it because I'm very excited about that. What is lovely that comes through so beautifully is the mint in there. I actually could add even more mint to that just to get that really strong and vibrant mint flavor. But for me, that's great. It's that little hit of extra virgin olive oil, the sweetness of the peas, that creamy saltiness you get from the feta, and knowing that you've added spinach, broccoli, frozen peas, all really good nutrients and a good veggie stock, you are in business. It's a very simple soup. I hope you'll recreate it. Of course, if you want the full recipe, I'll leave it in the description box below. You'll get all the details over on my website. Make sure you subscribe to this channel for delicious recipes just like this one, and leave me a comment letting me know if you're gonna try this very simple soup. Until then, I'm tucking in, so I'll see you soon.